So you're hosting your user directory in the cloud, probably using Azure AD or Octave or Google Identity or some others. And you have your Atlassian applications like Jira and Confluence on premise. This means server or data center. Now, what you want to do, obviously, is you want to have all the useful user information like telephone number, department, supervisor. You want that over in Jira Confluence where people use it and where your admin wants to set up some nice automations. This is very common. We're going to show you how easy that is to do using a couple of apps. We're going to use UserSync, which is included in Resolution's SAML single sign-on app, but can also be purchased separately. And we're also going to use Comunardo's user profiles for Jira and Confluence. What I'm going to demo is Jira, but everything works exactly the same regarding how to use the integration and send the information over, also for Confluence. So let's give it a shot. We're going to start by navigating to the Comunardo user profile settings that you can find in the Manage Apps section of the Jira administration. Here, I'm going to create some new user attributes. Full name and email are the system attributes, and they can't be tampered with. But I can create any new elements. So let me add, for example, a cell phone. I will choose phone number for the field type. Let me click Create, and then add a work number now. It's the same process, obviously. Next, I will add the location. And finally, I will add the supervisor, which has a different field type, user field. This will have some impact when we map fields to Azure AD with UserSync. If you want any of these elements to show in the hover profile within Jira, then you need to activate that option. It's very simple. Just check the box here. Okay, now we're ready to move over to UserSync to map these fields with Azure AD. I have a connector that I built using this guide here. It literally takes a minute. I'm going to edit the connector and go over to provisioning settings. Then scroll down to get through the mapping section. And the Comunardo elements we just added are going to show up right here. So all we have to do is click on them and select the corresponding attributes in Azure AD. Sometimes it's really easy, like with the phone numbers or with the office location. With the supervisor, UserSync needs to add an existing user in Jira, so the match is a bit harder. We're gonna need a line of Groovy code, but don't panic because we'll just grab it from this article in the resolution documentation. There it goes. Now, let's apply this as well. Before we run the sync, let's quickly check what a user profile looks like. Let's pick Harry Potter for the example. We'll click on View Public Profile on the right, and as you can see, there's an empty box that I can edit and where I can manually input data into the fields I created earlier, like this phone number. But that's not the point. The point is to integrate data from the IdP without manual work. So let's move over to Azure AD now and edit the Harry Potter profile field. Now I want to add a manager, but I cannot add just any user in Azure AD. This manager has to be a licensed Jira user. For example, I can go with Frida here, who is in my Jira directory. So I can go ahead and select her in Azure AD and make sure that this will work. I also want to add some phony data for the phone numbers and save the profile. Next, I can run the sync. The sync will only update one user and be super fast. And after that, I can close it and look at the changes. And there we go. Now we have a rich profile with different telephone numbers, with a manager, with data that has not been manually added on Jira. The assumption here is that this data will be integrated from other systems like ERPs, onboarding and HR systems, or whatnot. That's pretty nifty, right? So why don't you go ahead and try yourself? We've included links to the Marketplace apps in the description to this video, where we also have links to the documentation and also a link to our support team in case you're trying anything fancy and you need help with that. See you in the next video.